Okay, welcome to Social Thread Podcast. Social Thread is a nonprofit where we want people to belong, to thrive, and to explore their faith on their own terms in community. And with me, as always, is
Still Rob Reinders
yeah,
after
and
after all these episodes.
all these
Yeah.
episodes. And I'm Robert Payne, and I'm the community development director here. And with us, with this podcast we're joined by Gil and Cathy Stafford. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, our pleasure.
Our pleasure.
So we thought we'd jump right in and have you guys maybe just introduce yourselves and tell us what you do. What are you up to these days? And then we'll come back and have you go a little deeper into each one of your stories.
Okay. Well, I am a retired educator. I was in education for 35 years. And as I made that shift, of closing that chapter, moving into a new chapter, I had an opportunity to go to a spiritual direction school down in Tucson, to Cheria. And through that process, I kind of remembered about being a teacher and talked with Gil. It's a journey we'd been on for some time about maybe doing something like a wisdom school. And so Cheria is a nonprofit, Interfaith Spirituality Center. They have a school. I went and presented to the board, and we are a sister program in Phoenix. So we've been doing that about 6 or 7 years. It's called Wisdom's Way Interfaith School. So that's probably my main focus of what I'm into right now. And it has been an extraordinary journey. I think the best way I could describe it is that my spirituality is more than. And every time we meet in community together, it's just this deeper, more than, delving into the shadow, probably a lot more, but it's been really extraordinary. I have spiritual companions. I have a couple of coaching, leadership coaching companies. I work with 2 small businesses. So that's kind of, and then being a grandmother, that's probably my main joy in my life. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing right now.
I've had several former lives, and I've finally evolved to the one I like the most. I'm a writer. I still have a day job that funds that writing, and that day job involves being retired. So I don't have to show up to get a paycheck from anybody else, and I can write full time. And I'm working on a book now that I have been that has been wrestling with me for 5 years, and she's in control now, and she's going to finish herself here really soon. So I'm feeling okay today.
Nice. Yeah, I know how that writing wrestling match goes.
The muse takes over a lot.
Yes, yes, she does.
Better get out of the way.
Right. Would you guys mind going, maybe each of you going back and as far back and include or exclude whatever you like, and maybe just talk about what's your journey of faith been like?
Well, when my mother moved us in 1960 to Arizona in the Phoenix area there, she started going to a little Southern Baptist church. And so that really is my childhood, teenage years, young adult. Just so happened that Gil's mom and dad, when they moved in 1960 to Phoenix, they started going to the same little Southern Baptist church. And so Gil and I have known each other since we've been about, 6, 7, 8 years old, and through that lovely journey of being together, just decided that he was the best thing happening for me, and we have been on a love journey beginning then and continues to be that. We are closing in on 48 years of being married.
49.
49 this year? Yeah. We're closing closer to 50 actually. So that's a little part of that. So yeah, grew up Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Monday night visitation, did the whole 10 yards for many, many years, well through our kids growing up. When we moved to Buckeye, we joined First Southern Baptist Church down up in Buckeye. But there was an interesting switch. It's kind of what you all are talking about in your social threads work. Is we were able to be a part of the pastor and many of the adults our age who had teenage kids growing up. We started really like, is this it? Really? Is this it? And that fundamental line about wives being submissive and women couldn't be deacons or pastors, and it just didn't make sense. It's like, what? So Gil's more holy than I am? He has more to say than I do? And actually, Gil and I never lived that way. In our life, it wasn't aligned, and how we lived together, how we worked together, the things we did together as a family, it just wasn't aligned. Fortunately, there was a group of people there that were in the same place. So we started having what we called therapy sessions, and we would meet at each other's houses. Certainly, we couldn't have the conversation at church. That wouldn't happen. One of the things that we studied a lot and read a lot about was the Jesus Seminar, and did some of that work. It was glorious work. That began that journey, as I said earlier, that more than. Well, wait a second. And so then as it just carried us along and we sold our home in Buckeye, moved to Phoenix, we were able to then begin to explore the Episcopal Church and got an invitation to be a part of that. And that was like, wow, you can actually go to church and talk about these heretical ideas. And the cathedral at that time, the dean of the cathedral was a woman. So I sat in a church listening to a woman, and the archdeacon was a woman. And it was just like, whoa, just blew open some absolutely glorious opportunities for us. So that was that's been our journey. And then it just continues. Having this opportunity to do the wisdom school, it just keeps growing and continuing. So that would be my faith journey.
How about you, Gil?
Yeah. I'll kind of pick it up where, because Cathy and I walk side by side in this pretty much along the way. As the last reincarnation of my life, I was an Episcopal priest, and in that process of making that transition from one type of thinking to another type of thinking, the beauty of the Episcopal Church is that there are little nooks and crannies all over the church and all over the history of the church. And one of those nooks and crannies happens to be a part of the ancient Anglican Church, where characters like John Dee and John Donne hung out. And their theology was very mystical, very intertwined with other traditions, and not exclusively dogmatic Christianity. And so that was very attractive to me. It was full of mystery, knowledge, and magic. And that has been the journey that I've been on, and it continues to expand and open up possibilities of how we become one with each other, one with the divine, and one with all of the earth on which we live. So that's the short version. So.
Cathy, you talked about starting this the wisdom school, and feeling this call to come down to Tucson and learn from the school down here, and then starting another branch on that. Can you go more into that story and then more into what your wisdom school, Wisdom's Way, is all about?
When I was exploring to look for a spiritual direction school, I've been in a relationship with a spiritual director for years, And that idea of sitting with someone in a trusted space, I would call it holy listening, where you're listening to the holy, but you're listening wholly to you, WHOLLY, and to that divine that lives within us, and recognizing that and giving, being quiet enough to hear that. I really wanted an experience of interfaith. I wanted that more than, I guess I keep using that term, but so I was able to find the Tucheria Interfaith Spirituality Center. And at the time I was still working. It was my last year as being the superintendent of Avondale Elementary School District, which is a kind of a busy job. One of the beauties of the school was they met on Saturdays once a month. And so, okay, that could work in my schedule. And it was a 2-year program, so it kind of spreads it out. So I was it was like the last year I was certain superintendent, and the first year I was retired. And it got me into a new community. I wonder if that's how you all have felt about your social threads. It creates this new community for you to be in. And it was an absolutely amazing experience. And we got introduced to guest speakers, like a Jewish rabbi came. I don't know if you all know Jamal Rahman, who is a Sufi Muslim. Oh my gosh, Imam, he was amazing. Continues to come to Tucson. Anyway, those kinds of experiences. A woman that is a shaman came and talked about her experiences about that. And then you nestle down into this community of people that confidentiality was critical, and that ask for what you need, offer what you can give. And so having that experiences for 2 years was just this, I knew I wanted more than that, more than that. And of course, obviously we're on this journey together, and Gil and I talking about it. That's how Wisdom's Way Interfaith School began. And their focus, the Spirituality Center, is about that idea that there is believing that there's love and peace in all of us. All beings have that opportunity. And how do you create space, sacred space for people to be able to do that? And so that's how we began Wisdom's Way. We model that. We have different guest speakers, obviously, because we're up in Phoenix to do that. So we have Hindu, Buddhist, but I would say it's not learning about the religion. I listened to your podcast where you talked about wisdom traditions. It's about that. It's not about, okay, I'm sitting in class taking notes. What does it mean to be a Hindu? No, it's about those people come to share their faith journey. And then we ask them to give us opportunities to experience something like meditation, or it could be a variety of different things. So we ask them to come and bring their spirituality there, and then offer that as wisdom. And then in the afternoon, then we go deeper into that. And we do a lot of work around sitting in very small groups to do that holy listening, and to practice that. What does that look like, and how do you do that? How do you not just end up telling people what they should do, but you just ask those I wonder questions, and to hold space for them to be able to do the work themselves, that you're not doing the work for them. So the Wisdom's Way School is this wonderful integration of going deeper into spirituality. It's not about religion. It's about going into that, and then also exploring that idea that we can sit in community, in a trusted community, and be allowed to have our own opinions and our own thoughts. And there's no judging, there's no saving, there's no fixing anybody, there's no crosstalk. So that's a part of the school. And we practice the Circle Way, which is a whole other conversation to have about, but it creates that process for us to sit in circle together and allow, I like the image of that we're sitting in a circle, and this is big cauldron here, and we're the rim of the cauldron. And then we're sitting there holding that space of allowing the divine to work in us and around us and all among us, and let that work happen.
Who do you find, I guess that finds Wisdom's Way, who shows up, where where are they in life, in their journey? What kind of questions do they have?
I bet there would be a bit of an alignment with who's showing up for social threads. It's all different kinds of people that show up. We have people that have no faith traditions at all, and they're just looking for that spiritual but not religious experience. It certainly is connections that people have that have been a part of that school, and the age range, ranges down from 30-year-olds to our age.
Easy now.
Yeah, our age. So it's the wide range. We have people that are still in their professions and working. It's all different kinds of people. Matt Sandoval, I believe, was a part of one of your podcasts. He's a really good example of who's showing up. And this year we have a woman that's a part of our group that identifies herself as witch. And that earth-based, as soon as you say witch, everybody goes, whoa, what's going on here? It's like, no, but it's that earth-based, mother divine kind of way that she walks on her wisdom's journey. And so it's a wide range of who comes. And that's what makes it, I don't know what I would say, makes it exciting and makes it you just don't know what's going to happen. We plan for it, and then it always turns out to be, wow, really? That's what happened today? That's amazing. So
you just mentioned the gallows a witch, as you described her, or she describes herself. How does that, and when we're talking about interfaith, or I guess that's not even, interfaith is probably not the right term now, but more practices of spirituality. A lot of people might see that as, that'll threaten my own belief system. Mm-hmm. And that might make me doubt or think some thoughts I might be having. What might you say to those folks? What are the benefits of having this incredible melting pot of experience and perspectives?
I think it's a safe opportunity to ask questions that you might have of someone else's tradition. We've had, there was a woman that was a Muslim that was a part of our group. We have people that consider themselves agnostic, as well as we've had ordained clergy, Christian clergy in our group. And it gives them an opportunity to ask questions that they're afraid to ask. And they can ask those same questions of our guest speakers. When we have a woman that's a Jewish rabbi, and she's involved in Kabbalah, and so it gives us a great opportunity to ask questions about that mystical tradition. And because you have the circle, which provides the safety and provides the confidentiality, then everyone that goes out of the circle can tell their own experience, but you can never tell someone else's experience. So I can tell my story, but I can't tell Cathy's story. I can say, I heard this woman talk about Kabbalah, and it really reached me in a place that I had never been touched before. And she began to talk about the experience of what it means to go into a trance when you meditate. I can tell that story. I can't say, Cathy asked that question. Wow, it really looked like it did something to her. It's like, I can't do that. So the safety of the community and the circle allows us to feel like that we can ask questions. No one's looking for a convert. In fact, no one wants you to be their convert. I learned that early on. One of my mentors is Sikh. And early on, she told me, she goes, "You will never be Sikh." And I said, why? She goes, "Because I won't let you. You will never be Sikh." And my first spiritual director was a Roman Catholic priest. And I said, maybe I should be a Catholic. And he said, "Nuh-uh, you'll never be a Catholic. You wouldn't be a good one, and you won't be one anyway. So you're not going to be a Catholic. So I learned from some mentors that this isn't about conversion. The only conversion that's going on is mine. You know, me being converted into being at one with the divine. That's the goal, is to be at one with the divine. How I get there, the work that I do to get there, that's my work. It's not your work. It's not anybody else's work. And so in the group, we, every once in a while, we have to generally remind someone that those are the only rules that we have, is that you can tell your story, never tell anyone else's. This is not about conversion. This is about you finding your own way to being yourself. And so that I think that allows people that want to step in. But frankly, in all honesty, we have people usually on a yearly basis that come, and after a couple of sessions, they'll just say, "This isn't for me."
Right.
And that's fine. I mean, that's we understand that. So sometimes you don't know it's not for you until you get in the water and you find out that water's not like I want it to be. So.
And hopefully nobody's peed in the water. So.
Yeah. At least try it. We don't want you to drown.
Yeah.
Right. Why is this spot warm over here? Yeah. Kathy, on the website, you've call yourself a holy listener, or you use the phrases anyway, a holy listener and spiritual companion. Can you talk more about what those mean?
Yeah, that is part of the work that I do. Is I just open myself up to somebody that wants to have a one-on-one relationship, and so I meet with them. My approach to that is, so you want to have a one-on-one relationship to be able to explore your spirituality. All right, then I'm going to hold space for that. So I intentionally, when they come, I just listen. My main job is just to listen, and then maybe offer back a question or two to encourage them. If they ask me a question, I will definitely answer it. But I really try to hold that sacred, holy space to allow the divine and the wisdom that's in them already, that they're just maybe struggling with, or life is just beating them up at this time, where they can hear that for themselves and know what their next step is. Oh, so this is, and typically the companions I have meet about once a month-ish for about an hour. Kind of depends on how life has taken them. Some people, it's longer periods of time before that, but and I tell them they have to contact me because they need to be ready to be sitting in that space. And so for me, that's a big part of my spiritual work, because as I sit and hold space and listen, it works on me as well. As you all both probably really know, that when somebody's working on something, it's hitting spots in you, trigger spots in you, and work that's going on in you. And then that's not, I don't carry this into this situation, but then I need to go do my work afterward. Wow, why did that question bother me? Or why am I worried about them? Or what did it bring up in me? And so that's that holy, WH, that I'm listening wholly to myself in this situation.
And Gil, you've done a lot of work around pilgrimage, and you lead physical pilgrimages, but also spiritual, I think inward looking pilgrimages. Can you talk about that work on its own, but also how it integrates into what you guys do?
I mean, this sounds very trite, but life is a pilgrimage, and but I think we also have to take intentional pilgrimages, and our life is full of intentional pilgrimages. I'm changing, I'm evolving, I'm working to do those kinds of things. And if I recognize them as their own pilgrimage, then I realize that all those pilgrimages work together. So those that I take intentionally, or those that I don't take intentionally, things that are thrust on me, like health or coronavirus or, whatever, I don't have a job, whatever's thrust on me, it is also a pilgrimage. So if we are willing to take that on, then that also allows us to realize that I'm always doing work. I'm always learning. And I'm also realizing that, wow, I climbed that hill and I don't know ever want to climb another one like it. So, but I climbed it and I made it, so, and also realize like, wow, I went on a pilgrimage with 12 people. That was really awesome. I hope I never see those 2 people again. And that's okay because they don't want to ever see you again either, so it's like, okay, really good. It was awesome. It was a great 100 miles, but we also realize like all those things build one on top of another. And I think that's the whole spiritual process. I never stopped learning. I never stopped growing. I never stopped asking questions. And I every day I'm convinced I know less and less. And so I spend more and more time doing the kind of work that allows me the freedom to ask questions that I never thought I could have asked before, never been allowed to ask before, and even questions that scare me to death. And yet I still feel like I need to ask them. And that's the pilgrimage I'm on. And most of the people that come to see me want to go on that pilgrimage. And if they don't, I usually never hear from them again after the first time we meet. So they make it pretty clear that they don't ever want to see me again. And that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I was just gonna go ahead. Go, Rob. What were you gonna say? Because I
was just gonna piggyback on that and say for everyone listening, like when Gil talks about showing up, being on the pilgrimage, and do you want to go on this journey? and some people say yes, and other people say no. Gil showed up when I was having probably the most difficult time in my life, and reminded me that I was on a pilgrimage, and that I could go down the road and work things out, or not, and he'd support me either way. But he pointed me to some people that really changed my life. And, there was a conversation we had in there that I think really did help me sort of dive into the muck and be like, all right, this is a really big hill I'm climbing and I need to get to the top of it. I think that's just a personal shout out and a thank you to, to you being there in that part of my life. And it's something, I'll never forget. Anyway,
we always walk alongside other people, and to lead is to walk and hold someone's hand. That's what to be a leader is, and sometimes you have to carry some of their weight, and but at the end of the day, everyone's got to carry their own damn pack, and so I might carry it for you for a mile or two, but I ain't carrying it for you the whole 100, but everybody needs a break, and everyone needs someone to sit down on the side of the road with them and just to sit there. And sometimes you cry together, and most of the time you laugh together, and sometimes you swear together, and sometimes you walk along silently with each other. And I think we're all capable of doing that for one another. And I think that's what we try to do at Wisdom School, is help people see that everyone is capable of walking alongside someone else. Yeah.
Well, Gil and Cathy, as we are kind of rounding the corner here, I think my question is, what would you say to somebody who has that like initial asking of more than, there's got to be something more than where I am, and maybe they don't have the opportunity to be in a wisdom school or find a spiritual director? What would you say to them would be a very first step that they should take?
Well, I would say that once we call something out loud, once we speak it out loud, even if we're just saying it out loud to ourselves. But especially when we say it out loud to someone else, and we say it out loud to the divine, then the opportunities will come, and that which needs to find us will find us, and that which we need to hear, we will hear, and that which we need to be disturbed by will disturb us. And I would just suggest that someone's that's in that place, just say it out loud, you know, not in your head or anyplace else. Just say it out loud, and at some points you may have to scream it out loud, but make it known. Make it known.
Where can people go to learn more about your guys' work?
Well, Gil and I have a website. It's the number 2 Wisdom's Way, all one word, .com. And so that would be maybe a good place to start. And it connects people to us. There is a tab about our Wisdom School where you can see what our program of studies look like, a little description and an online application if that's something they want. It's a 2-year program, so it's a 2-year commitment. So that would be something. And if anybody wants to reach out to us, we would certainly help. If they're saying it out loud, screaming it out loud, we would be glad to just listen enough to maybe help them what that first step could be. You know, how about this? Have you thought about this? And, you know, what would fit for them and where they're on their path. But 2wisdomsway.com would be a good starting place to get in touch with us.
Awesome. Well, Gil and Cathy, thanks so much for being here. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us. We appreciate you young guys willing to talk to us, not so young guys.
True. Yes.
Awesome. Well, hey, listeners, if you have found this podcast meaningful, just really encourage you to jump onto their website and say aloud what you've been wanting to say for a long time, and you know it. If you're anything like me, you've held those things in for way too long, and it is eating you up inside. So, but hey, if you are also find this conversation meaningful and want to jump into community with us here at Social Thread, you can go to socialthread.org. If you want to get involved in supporting us financially, we are a nonprofit, so you can make your donation at socialthread.org/support. But otherwise, we will see you all next time. Thank you again so much, Gil and Cathy.